Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Norwich Talk. This is take two. The first thing I'm going to do is immediately call out Jordan Blythe for cocking up the audio. So massive two fingers up to that guy. I didn't plan on doing that, but I have now. We're joined by a familiar face in Mr. Alfie Britcher, and I've been told not to say the joke, so I won't. Mr. Billy Dunthorne, your long-awaited return. Bill, how are you, my friend? We've missed you.
I've missed you too. It's good to be back.
Oh, you've missed me too. Oh, that's nice. Alf, how are you, son?
Oh, very well, mate. I've missed you too as well.
Or me?
Yeah, I just felt like
Bit weird, mate. Why would you say that on camera? A bit weird. Right.
He's definitely not missed me. Definitely not missed me.
Shocking from Alf. But in today's video, we're on the penultimate episode of the review. We're going to do what we did last time on the review, a copy and paste style video. Keep or sell. This season, we're going to chuck in loan, keep loan or sell, keep sell or loan, however you want to arrange it. A very straightforward process, one that I hope we don't have to repeat for a third time today. But it does what it says on the tin. We're going to go through Canaries.co.uk's first team for Norwich City. So that includes players like Akin for Maywo. So it could get very interesting. I'm very sort of keen to know your thoughts on perhaps the loan exports, as well as the imports in terms of how they've done, what we want them to do at Norwich City. But we're going to start nice and simple. Mr. Tim Krul. Immediately, I'll say keep. I'll throw it over to you, boys. Keep or sell, Mr. Tim Krul.
Keep.
Easy. That was so easy, wasn't it? And the thing is, with Krul, what we could do is we could copy and paste the points we've said about him before, but we shan't because we know why he's so good and why everybody loves him. Now, we'll move on to Oyan Nyland, who I believe at the end of the season, his contract's up, isn't it? So he was signed on a 6-month deal. It was very much because McGovern was injured. I'm immediately going to say I see no purpose for him at Norwich City Football Club. I'm sure he's still a decent goalkeeper and good enough to be first team in the Championship for any club. But for me, guys, I'd say, I don't know if you can class it as sell. I'd say release. Bill, what are you saying about Mr. Oyan Nyland?
Yeah, I think it depends on his influence sort of behind the scenes. Like you say, it's probably unlikely that he'll play too much football if he gets the opportunity. So it depends on the positive influence that he is in the dressing room. Obviously, McGovern's been handed a 2-year deal because of that, really. So if they feel like he can offer that, then for sure. But I mean, this was a goalkeeper. He was playing in the Premier League last season, and his reputation probably was sort of tarnished a little bit. I would always prefer to have a homegrown goalkeeper on the bench. Probably something to do with Football Manager, but that's always my preference.
Yeah, that's a relatable issue, isn't it? It's the old eligibility, etc. And we've got that at Norwich, haven't we? In a goalkeeper in Den Barden, who I expect very much to go out on loan next season, but we'll preserve that for perhaps the next player. No, the fifth player we talk about. Alf Nyland. Is it as simple as goodbye? Goodbye, Ireland.
There's been some shockers so far tonight. I think, to be fair, it is a mixture of I can't really see why he'd want to re-sign anyway. And not only that as well, I don't really think we'd be too dependent on him. I know the Premier League's a lot more strict as well in terms of with regards to homegrown players and stuff. And as we'll move,
it's not as strict, is it? It's the Championship. I don't think it is.
I thought it was more strict because we had issues before with players like Tom Tribal and stuff in the Premier League.
No, well, I mean, according to FM, it's not. But I don't know if Brexit has changed it because it's foreign now, isn't it? That's what all the players are referred to who aren't from here. So yeah, I don't know, but it's a fair point.
But I think in terms of as a vet, if you had him on the bench, it wouldn't be a bad decision. I just don't think it's going to be something which mutually they probably come to terms.
Yeah, it's fair enough, and we've made our thoughts clear there on Mr. Oyan Nyland. If anyone wants to sort of correct my pronunciation, that would be gratefully received. Mr. Michael McGovern, keep or sell? That's an easy one. Keep. I absolutely love him. My favourite Northern Irishman. I think it's across the board there. Keeps brilliant. We'll drop that one down. Aston Oxborough. I'm going to say get rid of. I don't really know. Pardon me, what his personal aspirations are. Maybe they're quite clear in terms of play for Norwich, but for the club, I'm not too sure. Now, I know if he was an outfield player, I think it would be a more interesting discussion, maybe a bit more straightforward in the sense that he's not young anymore. But because he's a goalkeeper, you look at Tim Krul as an example, still in his prime at 33. Perhaps maybe there's a bit more longevity to him. But what we're saying about Aston Oxborough, keep loan, sell. I'm leaning towards a loan.
Yeah, loan. I think he was going to go out on loan to Salford City in League Two last season until he ruptured
Oh,
his ACL.
yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah.
think to sell him would be a little bit harsh, Ben.
Yeah, do you know, I'd forgotten. I'd forgotten about the year-long injury.
Hardly.
I'd asked him. I'm
just
so sorry.
I think loan, like you're right, is a fair point. I think the point that I would like to make about Norwich in general in that position is we don't obviously know if Oxford will play for Norwich City as a first team goalkeeper. I think what's quite apparent is that they've got three options there, and they're probably hoping one of them is eventually good enough. And it might be Oxford, it might be one of the other two, but they've got some good young goalkeepers, and then I think they're probably not stockpiling, but hoping that one of them develops as hoped, really.
Yeah, it could be a case of simply maybe developing a League One, League Two player, make a few quid off him. That's the Norwich way, isn't it? Self-funding model. That's how it has to go. Alf, Mr. Oxborough, what are you doing with him?
I think, to be fair, the only experience I can really recollect of him having is a good spell at, I think it was Wealdstone. I think that was maybe where he was,
It was, yeah, it was, yeah.
the year before he did his ACL. But it's tough to say because he hasn't really had any kind of significant deal away. So I'd probably prefer to see him at like you say, a League One, League Two, even like a kind of Kings Lynn, like Archie Meyer. That kind of level would be quite good for him, I think, as well next season.
Yeah, is he still a Norwich player technically, Archie Mayer?
Pretty
He
sure
is,
he was on
right?
loan. Yeah.
Yeah,
There was
cool.
some weird thing because I from follow, this is like the third time I've mentioned Football Manager. This is ridiculous, but from a quite a successful, ridiculously successful Kings Lynn save. I'm not a Kings Lynn fan, but I keep up to date with them. And there was a weird thing where like players like Archie Mayer just weren't involved, and I don't really know why. It was something to do with the furlough scheme, which I can't see how affects Norwich, but it was some weird scenario.
Oh
Aside
yeah,
from it, but
yeah. So Lynn basically to prevent any now with my Derham Town hat off, what I saw was confused me personally. I have absolutely no doubt there's nothing wrong with this, but they would furlough a bunch of players but still have games to play. So they signed more players, like Simeon Jackson as an example. I don't really know the idea behind that. Hands are off it. I'm going to leave it alone. But that's what happened. So that's why he didn't play for Kings, and it was a very peculiar situation. Although normal situations aren't in abundance throughout the past year, are they? Given we're in a global pandemic still. Daniel Barden, I think we can all agree, loan, can't we? Yeah, cool. Not across the
100%.
board. Brilliant. I can imagine him going to a League Two, maybe League One club, but equally I wouldn't oppose a Kings Lynn, for example. Archie Mayer again. I think we have to send him out on loan, don't we? Now here is the first juicy player, and I'm gonna go Max Aarons. Keep or sell, Bill.
I mean, there is a theory out there that Norwich sort of cashing in on Max Aarons for 30 million and reinvesting that in the rest of the squad wouldn't be a bad decision to make and a bad option. It might allow them to have a little bit more of a sort of bountiful budget this season. I think the thing I'd say is he's just so consistent. Is he like it's very rare he probably gets a 9 out of 10, but I don't think he's ever played below a 7 out of 10, and that's probably the biggest compliment I can give him. Norwich's squad, I presume, will be stronger with Aaron's in it. The reason I say presume is because I do think you have to look towards the left of the defence and how our defence has actually improved with the sale of Godfrey and Lewis. And I think it would be bold of us, any of us, to suggest that we'll be better off next season with Aaron's, but that is always in the back of my mind.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. The squad is stronger with Max Aarons. There's no question about that for me. He's a £40 million player. Will he be sold for that? I don't think so. Before I pass to you, Alf, I'm gonna say sell to Max Aarons just to make it interesting in the idea of, as Bill said, reinvest that into the rest of the squad. For me, the right back position specifically is sort of expendable. You can change that not easily, but it's easier than, for example, Emi Buendia. And I'll mention this point again when we talk about Buendia. But I don't think any sort of handshakes have gone on behind the scenes, if you will. But I do believe Max Aarons is probably under the influence that now is his time to leave Norwich, and there'll be no sort of shortage of interest, will there? You look at before the Preston game, the story broke about Barcelona in January. It's well documented that he rejected a move to Roma, two gigantic clubs in world football. Alf, what are you saying about Aarons?
I'm leaving. I'm leaning more towards the sell side, to be honest with you. I just think that the idea of having 30, 35 odd mil in the bank, and knowing how we've got in the past with even like a James Maddison, I think we're all in agreement that when we finished 12th and then lost Maddison, we probably all thought we were going to go down, and then we got promoted. So, if anything over the last couple of years has proved that there's not as much of a reliance on individuals. It's that reinvestment that matters. I mean, for all we know, Barley Mumba could come through next year, have the season of his life, and we could be saying, oh, well, who's Max Aarons? And I think that honestly might be the case.
Yeah, we spoke about, and I believe I've done this. My brain is trying to sort of comprehend the fact that I've not recorded these episodes chronologically. But with Ben Bloom and Chris Gorham so far, we've said and highlighted sort of passionately that Norwich's ethos is about replacing, and they've got a reputation now, haven't they, for doing it. James Madison's an example. For me, Angus Gunn to Tim Krul, that's another example of replacing really well. Ben Gibson, Ben Godfrey, another example. Jamal Lewis, Dimitris Yanoulis. Norwich are pretty good at replacing these players, aren't they? And I think it's much more different, isn't it, to last season, where obviously we've just been relegated. We wanted to bounce back immediately. I think this Weber plan has taught us that it's okay for players to leave. That's just sort of a part and parcel of the game now. And maybe Norwich are a selling club, but for me that's totally fine. Sam Byram, Bill, what are you saying about him? Are you saying goodbye to him in the summer?
This is an
I
interesting.
don't think anyone would sell him. Anyone would buy him.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I think you probably would have expected him certainly to be back to some sort of fitness level. He was a really good player for us in the Premier League, so I think you're in that weird sort of scenario where he might sort of still be around. How sort of sentimental they are, I don't know, but depends how fit he is, to be honest, because he was a fair performer last time in the Premier League, and I think if he's fit, if he can play, then why not? But like you say, he has had his injury troubles, and he might struggle certainly to get a permanent move sort of elsewhere.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm going to say keep Sam Byram. As you mentioned there, rightly, he was a decent little player. He was a bit of a gem, wasn't he? Alf, what are you saying about Mr. Byram? I'm going to open my blinds quickly again. I do apologise.
I think I'm going to lean towards keep just because of the fact that, like you said, I don't really think anyone's going to be in the position where they want to spend any money on him. But he just reminds me of Matt Jarvis when we kind of went down and went back up again, and it was like, well, he can definitely add something. It's just he's never there. So he is, unfortunately for him, because I'm sure it's none of his own doing, but a little bit of a kind of a waste of the wage bill. But like, I just don't think anyone would ever come in for him.
Yeah, I think the thing is with the wage bill for Norwich, they're not financially crippled, so it's not really a bad thing. You look at him out at Carrow Road in the celebrations with the trophy. I think that's just nice for him personally, because for everyone for the past year, it's been sort of awful, hasn't it? But for him especially, he's not been able to do what he loves, and perhaps at times we can relate to that, which is really sad for him. And hopefully he bounces back in a yellow top. Will he? I don't think so. But yeah, it's very much a keep situation. The captain, Grant Hanley, very easy one. That keep.
Keep.
Big thumbs up from Bill there. I respect the hell out of that. Christoph Zimmerman is an easy one for me. Keep.
Who do you want to come to first?
Mate, whoever's the most passionate, go.
I would be open to the idea of selling.
Yeah.
Me and Bill discussed this quite a bit with regards to Weber's podcast with Jake Humphrey, the High Performance podcast, where he talked about being too sentimental, seeing players like Vrancic and Alex Tete obviously leaving the week, and I don't know, someone like Zimmerman just kind of fits that category. I don't think he's really at the level to play in the Championship for us, let alone make the step up as a third choice or fourth choice. Obviously, we'll talk about other players like Omar Deli and stuff as we go on, but I would love to see us replace him, to be honest. But there's no doubt he is a modern day club legend, I guess you could say. I know that's quite
a Webelution legend. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a fragile term, the word club legend now. But there's no doubt he's been instrumental in what we've done. But I wouldn't really be too fussed if we let go of him.
Bill, Zimbo.
I echo kind of the earlier point from Alf about the sentimentality aspect. I think it just depends. It just depends what their view is. I think, again, not to sort of sound like a broken record, but it's the whole positive influence in the dressing room, and I think they probably value that. There's probably a little bit of a context element from Zimmerman's point of view in terms of his career and where it's sort of come from. So the thing I would say is not too worried about whether we sell him. I don't want 3 centre halves again next season. I want that to be an area that we strengthen in terms of capacity and numbers.
Yeah, he's I think 7, no, maybe not 7, maybe 7 years younger than McGovern, but I want him in the McGovern role, and I can see him becoming a coach at Norwich City. I absolutely want to keep him, but not to play football, which is a bit weird. And I reference sort of the lack of financial restraint on Norwich, in terms of this idea that affording him isn't going to be an issue. So I do want to see him stay. I want to see him be a coach, and I very much see that happening. Let me whip up my list again. Xavi Quintilla is going to be going back. It was kind of unfortunate it didn't work out for him. Bally Mumba, I think that's quite an easy one. I think that's a keep across the board, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I don't know. I think that he's probably falls into that bracket of a number of Norwich City youngsters where it probably is better for him to get a full season of football next season as opposed to be another bench warmer. So it depends on what's best for his development, really. If Norwich feel like he can step up and sort of fill in, continue playing that role, then absolutely keep him. But also depends on maybe what Norwich bring in.
Yeah, that really is the case, isn't it? I can see him being at least a number two, and if he's okay with that, then that's totally fine. That's brilliant. Long term, yeah, a loan might suit him. I'm going to say keep. Are we saying keep then across the board, or are you going to be brave enough, Bill, and say loan?
I'll say keep. I'll say keep.
Keep, cool, right. Keep across the board for him. Giannoulis is going to stay here. Obviously, we were very excited on this channel, weren't we, Alf? In terms of what we thought he would bring. He's brought it. He's going to bring more. For me, a Premier League player already. Really excited to see him flourish in the top flight. Ben Gibson again. I did this reluctantly on the pod with Goran, where I just said I got it completely wrong about Ben Gibson. I was worried that he wasn't going to sort of adapt quick enough. I couldn't be asked at the time, to be honest with you, to wait. But he's been brilliant, and he's obviously going to stay. Akin for Maywo is our first, maybe second youngster, who's been out on loan at Charlton. And I remember there are tweets from Dan Emery that pop up every so often. I think it's once a month, where he basically tweets about for Maywo's record for the month. Now, he's been injured a few times this season, but when he plays, the defensive statistics are ridiculous. And I think, what is he, 23 now? So he's not Max Aarons, he's not 19, he's not 20. He's at the point of his career that Todd Cantwell is at now, technically, I guess, where it's either, in terms of playing at the top flight, it's you do it now or maybe not at all. So what are we saying about Firmino, Alf?
I think the answer is he's just been topped by another fantastic centre half that's come through the system in Omobamidele. And to be honest with you, I think that the fact he's doing what he's doing at 18 proves to you that especially going up a level, if he isn't thought in the ranks to be ready for a first team in 23 and really coming through the ranks whilst Webber has been here, I wouldn't really lose too much sleep if he went, to be fair, because I'm more than happy with Omobamidele staying and then taking his place if he was to come into the first team.
What about you, Bill?
I'd probably lean more towards a loan. I think he's obviously been on loan at St Mirren and was a fairly successful one. I know me and Alf sort of done some research into that when he was there. He's then gone to Charlton and, like you say, probably struggled with injuries a little bit, but for the most part, it's been a sort of productive loan signing for them. I think if he could then make that step up against the Championship, then you're probably looking at a player that maybe one day will play for Norwich City. But you're quite right; it's a big step up, and you're probably looking for a top season in the Championship before he'd be ready to do that.
Yeah, it depends on the intention again, doesn't it? And I applied this logic to, I can't remember which goalkeeper it was now, Aston Oxborough, in terms of this idea of, are they going to be a moneymaker for Norwich? And I think maybe it depends on Charlton's interest and if they want to sign him permanently. If they want to, I'd be very receptive to any bid really over £1 million. But it's a very interesting one. I'm going to say loan as well. I'm going to go with loan because, again, I think there's money to be made, and I don't think it really hurts Norwich to not do that. Tim Closer now, I thought his contract was up at the end of this season, but it's not. It's the end of next season. Again, for me, I think it's sort of a copy and paste of the last time. He's finished at Norwich. I think he's been fairly injury free at Basel. But I think it's very much goodbye, Tim Closer, and maybe it's a case of running down the contract, Bill.
Yeah, I'd echo that. I think, like you say, he probably wasn't a player that they was in sort of the Championship plans. So it took a brave man to say that he's in the Premier League plans.
I think it was I think I think Gorham said this on his pod. It was kind of it wasn't the plan for him to play post Project Restart because he'd had a year out, so he kind of got sort of thrown in the deep end, didn't he? He got a bit stuck in the mud at times, which was understandable, but at the time and sort of the level of frustration we were all feeling was kind of unbearable. Alf, is it as simple as sell Tim Closer?
Yeah, I don't know why, but for some reason I feel like he had a clause in his contract at the end of the season to make it permanent, but I probably just having one of those moments. But I
It
know
might
that
be.
because I feel like when that was in that deal was done, it was kind of like a goodbye then.
It was, yeah.
But yeah, I'm not gonna lose too much sleep over Tim Closer leaving.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think it's sort of sell across the board, isn't it? Philip Heiser. Goodbye, Philip Heiser. I forgot he was even here. To be
Who?
honest with you. Philip
Who?
Heiser, exactly. His picture on this website isn't even updated into the new kit. That's how much they have just sort of said goodbye to him. Really. Sam McCallum, an interesting one. We were chatting about this before the pod, weren't we? About what maybe the intention is behind. So I think I don't know if me and Alf are in the same boat, but Bill, I'll let you take the lead on Mr. McCallum and what you would personally do with him.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because I think it again probably depends on how he's developed. I can't say I've watched too much of Sam McCallum. The music coming out of it is music coming out of commentary is that he's been again another productive loan spell. The biggest compliment I can probably play him is that if I'm not mistaken, Ryan Giles from Wolves is on loan in that same position and ended up having his loan curtailed because he wasn't getting enough football, which probably leans towards quite a strong performer from McCallum. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go back to Coventry next season, or maybe even another Championship club. And it probably depends on where they see McCallum's development at, really, because it's a weird one, like you say, because he was on loan to a Championship club whilst we were in the Championship. So and that would probably have been a backup as well. So I think it depends. I'd quite like to see him given the opportunity in the Premier League.
Yeah, I'm going to say keep as well. Past you, Alf. What are you saying about Sam McCallum?
I just think that, and again, it depends if you're reading into it too much, but coming off the back of a good season, at a good level as well, whenever I say it's a really weird instance where you are on loan in the same league as your parent club.
Different ambitions, though. I don't think it's that weird.
Yeah, I think just naturally, especially when we were playing half that season without a left back as well, you've got to remember.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
Whether or not they feel like he might need another year to develop, I just took the signs that Xavi Quintella's permanent option wasn't taken up. So I imagine that they were either A, looking to get another backup, or B, happy with what they've got within the club, which would be Sam McCallum.
Yeah.
One thing I certainly would be uncomfortable seeing again is just one left back and having Sorensen or Byron fit in there. I think I'm just a massive fan of left-footed players, as Alf and you both know. And
you'd love me then. I'm a lefty.
Yeah, so am I.
Yeah.
Oh, you are.
Actually, did I say I love them? But no, I think Norwich's sort of just general balance is so much more balanced in that
There's
sense.
more of it, yeah, the thing is with Norwich, we saw it this season, didn't we? With the injury crisis, there was a lot of depth, and depth is going to be what keeps us in the Premier League. It's maybe what helped sort of take us down. I'll say helped rather than it took us down. Right, let's move on to who should we go with? We'll go with Lucas Rupp. For me, it's a simple one. It's a keep, and I have him as sort of the backup ball to ball. Excellent, box to box midfielder. Sorry, for Lucas Rupp. Alf, LR7.
Love the man. Apart from really Kenny McLean playing the best, I'd say the best kind of spell in his Norwich career, and
absolutely
a top 4 player, a quality player in Oliver Skipp to keep him out of the side. Let's not forget that those early days of the season when we were really struggling, he was a really pivotal part of that midfield too. So I think he's probably progressed the most out of any Norwich player I've seen in the last kind of 18 months with what he was like at the start. So I'm more than happy to have him here.
Yeah, it gives me, I don't know if you guys are Harry Potter fans, but it gives me Severus Snape vibes. The biggest redemption arc that I've seen at any point, and it's a beautiful thing, and he's a very gifted footballer. LR7 for you, Bill?
I don't... Yeah, I'd keep him. And the point I'll just make is I remember back in the podcast days, all those months ago, Alfie, I actually put him in my, I think, preferred 11 for the first game of the season, and I got absolutely slaughtered online. Not that I'm sort of like reveling in it now because he's hardly played, but the thing I'd say, it's really interesting you mentioned that he's sort of come on leaps and bounds. I don't think he has. I think he's just been played in the correct position, in the correct role. I don't think, I don't think, I thought he's a bad player. It's kind of like if you played Kenny McLean out on the left for half a season, he's probably not going to be nowhere near as good. And I think you look at what Lucas Rupp is at his age. I think he costs about £500,000. Good utility player, solid performer in the Championship, and can probably do a job in the Premier League. So yeah, absolutely keep.
Yeah, we love LR7. Little no idea if any of the LR7 fan club watch, but if you do, we love him. Mario Vrancic. Do you know what? I think we'll speak about him a little bit, but quickly, because I do want to sort of progress this. He's obviously leaving, right? So the answer is sell. Would we have? Are we happy with that decision? I personally am. You mentioned sort of being sentimental earlier, didn't you, Bill? And it's about upgrading the team. And Mario Vrancic is a player who physically, I don't think he's up for it anymore. When he could have played this season, he didn't. Your best mate, was it your best mate, Bill? Kieran Dowell came in and absolutely smashed it. You're buzzing to talk about Kieran Dowell, aren't you? You're absolutely buzzing for it.
Can't wait.
Are you happy with Vrancic then, with him leaving?
Look, sometimes sort of stories just come to an end, don't they? And I think you mentioned maybe the most improved player. I think you could probably put Vrancic in that category for a Farke era. I remember when he first came in, he looked so sort of, off the pace, nice, if you like. And he's been such a cultured player for us, come up in such big moments. I think would he be in my starting 11? No, but you do wonder whether there would have been a place for him, on the bench in the last 10 minutes trying to break down teams. That's when I always think he's at his best. But I think maybe sometimes like you say, it's just come to an end with that. And he's been such a good servant. You kind of want to finish on a high in a way, don't you?
Yeah, you speak about moments there. You've got Sheffield Wednesday, Wickham, Birmingham, Aston Villa, Leeds, Blackburn. That's 6. That's ridiculous, isn't it? A player across a career at a club usually has a couple that they're remembered for. Mario Vrancic has so many, and we love him. Alf, with Vrancic, have I asked you about him already? I honestly can't remember.
Well, all I was going to say, and it kind of highlights your point there, is that he just played the Simeon Jackson role, didn't he? Just absolutely went on a madness and tore up the division late on in the season and clutch, as I'm sure you'd appreciate as a basketball fan. That's what I kind of classify him as.
That's bang on.
But no, I'm not. Again, it's a great. Put it this way, if we'd have signed him for another year, I wouldn't have complained. I just don't feel like he was needed here. So I'm sure that his visions didn't align with ours, and that's probably why it come to an end anyway.
Yeah, I think it might have sent out the wrong message, to be honest with you, if we'd have signed him on for another year now. And I promise this is pure convenience rather than just me looking for this. Kieran Dowell, Billy Dunthorne's best pal. Talk to me about this man.
To be fair, I must give Alfie some credit as well. I think me and Alf were probably in the same boat. I don't want to say
all for you, mate. None for Alf. None for Alf. All for you.
I think, like I say, there was such an enormous amount of excitement for Kieran Dowell, and I've sort of been adamant during the whole season that I think there's a £20 million player in there, and I think you're probably seeing the sort of fruits of that now. I'm surprised that there's sort of some discussion whether he's got that shirt or not. I think his performances in that half of the season have fully merited that. I think he's been such a good performer, such a talent as well, and like you say, the potential and the ceiling there is so high. A lot of people sort of talked about was he coming in sort of like a Buendia and Todd replacement? I don't really think that was the case. I think actually the fee he was signed for, that's a real steal. And I'll stop talking now because if not, we'll be here at midnight still talking about Dowell. But yeah, just a joy to watch, and probably my favourite player in this Norwich City team, which probably isn't a surprise either.
That's totally fair enough. You said you love lefties, and that man has got a beautiful left foot. But not only that, he's incredibly intelligent. And where he lacks physicality, it's that footballing brain that Timu Pukki sort of shows as well, where perhaps sometimes your other features, your other attributes let you down. But the intelligence is there, and it's rife. Alf, Mr. Dowell, is it just a case of echoing the sentiment of Bill there?
Yeah, I've never been so happy to see a player turn into what I hoped they'd be. Because I chatted so much rubbish for so long when he wasn't really performing and he was in and out of the side. And really, ever since that Forest away game, that was the first proper one where he turned up for me, and I thought this is the Dow that we knew we were going to get. I don't think you could ever hate a number 10 that has such a goal scoring threat as well. It's just he's such a beautiful player to watch.
Yeah, he's got more goals than Cantwell now, isn't he? And you mentioned that I don't know if it's more or it's equal. I think it's more because of Reading, because he scored 2, didn't he? But Kieran Dowell, the argument was always his season has been sort of injury plagued, and the key is patience is a virtue that Norwich fans have had to live with, haven't they? I think I said that exact quote on the pod with Connor, but it's so relevant and it always will be, and sort of waiting really essentially for Kieran Dowell to find his form and full fitness, and to allow him time to sort of maybe fill out that potential has been a worthy choice, and he absolutely has the shirt for me going into the next season. For me, this is an easy one. Next up, by the way, keep all round for Kieran Dowell, obviously. For me, this is an interesting one. Shimoswaf Poeta. I'm saying Malone because I don't, and infamously now I suppose I'm wrong in terms of Gibson and Dow, but I don't see him being ready for the Premier League. I don't really know what he offers, to be honest with you, Bill. What are you saying about Shemoswaf?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think I'm not sure. I think Alfie's in agreement with me here, but there's 100% a player in Shams Supplicator. There's 100% of talent in there. Whether we see that in a Farker system with the sort of
tell me why there's a talent there, because I don't know what he offers beyond pace, and pace gets you so far.
I think there's evidently a technical talent. His cross for commentary. I think the problem is it's almost a square peg in a round hole. And I'm sure we'll probably come on to a similar topic when we get towards the forward line as well. But I generally think there's a talent there. Like if you put him in a play, I don't know why this team, this is the first one comes to mind, but Redknapp's Tottenham, okay, when they had Lennon and Bale down the wing with Crouch up top, right? Put Plaqueta in that team, and he's a hell of a talent, hell of a player, boy. But I think seriously, I do think there's a talent there. It's interesting they've started to play him a bit more on the right coming into that left, but whether that's where they do see him fitting in. But yeah, I think there's a player there, and I think alone probably would be the best option. It's just whether we'll see that in a Farker tactical setup. I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose maybe the intention is to groom him into being the next Iron Robin. Alf, Mr. Poeta, what are you saying about him?
I definitely don't think so. Put it that way. So
well, no one's going to buy him. I don't think, to be honest with you.
No, I think to be fair, I mean, what is he like? 22,
23, I believe.
Even then, 23. Like, there's a lot to be said about his pace being a massive asset, because you can't. I know there's an element of his technicality sometimes can be come into question this year with some of his. But I think it's more decision making than anything. And you've seen players like Nathan Redmond since leaving us has turned to a fantastic player for Southampton, and there's an element which just makes me think maybe maturity is what he needs. So it's one of those things you can nurture over time. But honestly, what I've been trying to figure out is if his play style is how that's going to fare in the Prem. And that's what I'm really interested to see, because I thought on paper he'd be the perfect Championship player. But he hasn't kind of worked like that. So I'm really interested to see when he does get time in the Prem, if he plays a bit like O'Neill did last year, when there was spurts and he was a bit more of a player which they probably teams for the first 5-10 minutes might step off and go, oh, okay, this guy's got something. But then in the long run, I just don't know if his kind of lack of decision making will be the kind of the crutch.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? When we talk about how maybe he'd fare in the Premier League, because now please don't call me out and tell me to name every Premier League fullback, but typically Premier League fullbacks are very quick now, aren't they? So maybe if he loses the main part of his game, he would struggle. But I'm so willing to be proved wrong by him, and I will absolutely love it to see him do well, because again, as I mentioned earlier, it's a new country to him, and he's a young man, so the lifestyle aspect is something beyond the football, which affects the football, doesn't it? So maybe it's been a bit tough, maybe not tough, but sort of long for him to adapt. Right, what we'll do is I think we've got a few fairly simple ones here. We've got Campwell across the board. That's a keep, isn't it? We love Toddy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Love that. Absolutely love that. Emi Buendia, a keep, like Christ alive. Do you know what? I'll open this up for a bit of a discussion, because I think we have to talk about Emi Buendia, don't we? In that you compare him to Max Aarons, and for me, Buendia, you break the bank, you give him a new contract, you convince him to stay. Within that contract, you say it's just so we get more money for you next year, essentially. Buendia is irreplaceable. I went over the stats again with Ben Bloom on the podcast, which is yet to come out at this point. So make sure you look out for that. But we went over the stats, and I believe it was when he got red card of beat Borough. We did a podcast, didn't we, Alf, with Sam about Norwich without Buendia, and it was this idea of what was it, a 6% win ratio without Buendia. You cannot replace that. He's had a direct involvement in 42% of Norwich City's goals this season. Now, towards the tail end of the season, Norwich scored a lot more goals, so that number is even more impressive. Emi Buendia, Bill, is it just a case of give him a new contract, give him what he wants, give him the keys to the city? What is it?
He's the greatest ever Norwich City player ever. I think I don't know if you boys share the same frustrations as I do, as we're all sort of a similar age group. There's a tendency, I feel, for older players to receive more credit than the newer players, so players in the 80s and stuff. And I just think the game now, what the footballers have to do, I don't really care what anyone says. He's the greatest player to ever put on the yellow and green.
If you stick Buendia in the 80s, he's the best. Like, he's the best of the best, isn't he? Yeah. Yeah, but that's just ridiculous. Like human evolution, isn't it? To be honest with you, and the evolution of the game.
No, absolutely it is, but I still feel like they should be given more credit, maybe because of the demands that are put on them. But that's a sort of going off topic a bit there. But no, generally just an unbelievable talent, and if we get to watch him next season, I'll be so grateful. I think he's got one more year in a yellow and green shirt, and then you probably will be sort of coming to the end of that. But just enjoy him. Just enjoy him is all I can say.
Yeah, it depends who shows interest. Alf, do you sort of echo the sentiment now? I don't think me and Bill have sort of squeezed that orange straw, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, there's not really too much you can say. I remember that podcast after Borough and the kind of the emotions when we found out with everybody's read it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I mean, obviously, that there is a very likely world where he leaves this summer. There is a very likely chance that is the case. And when that day comes, it might be worth just closing your eyes and going to sleep for a year. But until that day comes, keep living the Emi Buendia wave.
You say close your eyes for a year, but all you've done there is just delay the inevitable pain. So maybe just shut down for good. That was
liquidate.
Yeah, liquidate. Yeah, that's no. I'll leave whatever I was talking about there alone. Marco Stiepermann. I don't know. All right, I don't like.
Sell.
Yeah, I'd say. I'm going to say sell, but maybe a second tier, first tier, lower first tier German team would pick him up. Bill, is it as simple as sell?
Unfortunately, yeah, I think he's a player probably in the Vrancic mould who holds so many sort of happy memories from Norwich City. I think again it comes down to that sentimentality point, and whether Norwich will feel a responsibility to keep him or not, I'm not sure. I'd certainly like to see a sort of top quality replacement come in for Stiepermann if he does come in. If he does go, sorry, because I think there's potential there to sign a real top talent in that role in the Farke system. Like I say, we've seen it with Dow, Todd, and Emi, just how good these type of players can be in those positions. So if he does go, I think Norwich have got sort of big boots to fill in a way, because I think he's been a big presence in the last few seasons.
Yeah, you've got Dow, but it's not enough, is it? And that's on an injury basis. The sort of transfer budget will be looking a bit thicker, a bit juicier. So I absolutely agree in terms of this idea that he should be replaced essentially. Jakob Sorensen, I still Lungi. I don't know how you say his bloody name, for God's sake. Keep, love that man. I might be in love with that man. I don't know. Absolutely love him to pieces. Chaps, is it as simple as keep?
Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. I think just to mention Sorensen quickly, I think it's interesting to sort of what role he plays in that midfield. If it is a 6 in the skip mould, I'm not necessarily convinced he has the defensive capabilities of a skip yet. I think the biggest compliment I can play him is that sort of pitch IQ that we like to say, and there's sort of just that technical competence, and I could see him playing alongside a skip, in that McLean role, where you probably want a little bit more defensive solidity, but still someone who can progress the ball up the park. And honestly, I think he's probably the most unfortunate Norwich City player this season. I think the fact he's played, I don't know the stats, but not a lot of games at all. And when he has played, it's been at left back. And I think the talent there, that's really unfortunate, to be honest.
Yeah, Sorensen, we all agree on keep, don't we? I think he should be the first player to have a crack at the replacing Ollie Skip. Whether he takes advantage of that, we don't know, do we? But for me, I do think he'd do quite well with it. Right, we'll move on to oh, there he is, Ollie Skip. I just look at his picture; it just makes me sad that we won't see him again. We would have kept him if we could. It's as simple as that. Kenny McLean is obviously a keep.
Do you
Go on.
think it's a foregone conclusion that he's not back here next season?
I don't think he's coming back.
Can I put forward a theory as to why I think he might be? Now, he's now picked up this injury. Tottenham will have a new manager, and I'm thinking about what usually happens with a new manager. Everybody comes back to pre-season, they evaluate the squad, and then they sort of pick their favourites. Skip's not going to have that audition in front of the new manager, and he won't have a pre-season under his belt, so he won't be fit. So I don't think Premier League clubs will necessarily become calling as they would have. I think he might be back here. I generally do. I think he's not going to have a pre-season.
Don't give me hope, Bill, please.
I think he only comes back if we cut him a little bit of the pie off when we sell the Marins, and you can take.
It's a cheeky 5 mil at the bank, Ollie. Come stay. Do you know what? That's a good theory, Bill.
I'd take it. I'd take it.
Yeah, absolutely. We can call that one the Billy Dunthorne conspiracy that Norwich City broke his ankle on purpose. Which, by the way, his injury was severe, but he walked off with it, and I was just like, that man, what can't he do? Other than maybe come back to Norwich next season. We don't know. We want him to stay, don't we? Kenny McLean is going to stay. Obviously, he signed a contract at the beginning of the season, didn't he? Here's another interesting one. Do you know what? Actually, we'll say Hernandez first. I'm going to say sell Hernandez.
Sell.
I love the bloke, but to keep it professional, it doesn't offer anything for me.
No. I mean, I can resoundingly say that I wouldn't have really been too fussed if he was sold this season.
We do love him. Emphasise that more, Alf. We do love him. His character, unbelievable.
He just fits that mould of, in my view, Vrancic, Zimmerman, Stiepermann, and then O'Neill. They were absolutely fantastic the year we went up, but that's kind of where everything then, eclipsed, if you like, and now I just feel like they're based off not really the quality they have now, but the quality they previously possessed, and I don't think that's going to help us when we try and not be a yo-yo club as the rest of football Twitter now hates us.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I'll just show you that quickly. Ice cold. That's why we love him. 23 games, no goals, no assists, but ice cold. Josh Martin. For me, it's a loan. I wasn't convinced he was ready for Norwich City in the Championship this season. He had some moments of excellence. He's definitely one for the future, and I think he'll be a big player for Norwich. But for me, it's a loan. What are you saying, Bill?
Loan. I think, again, you're probably looking at somebody who needs to sort of fill out a little bit more. I actually think he was really unfortunate this season. I think about the game time that Plaqueta and Onel Hernandez have been afforded, the sort of performances. I actually think when Martin came in, aside from Todd, he's probably the best option we had out on that left-hand side, and I think his performances have been fairly decent. Look, he probably wasn't a starter in the Championship, but I think I was really impressed by his development, and I think certainly one for the future that I'm sort of mildly confident and excited by, I think.
Yeah, there's plenty of reasons to be excited, isn't there? He's being bred under this new academy setup, isn't he? So when he's not in the first team, he's with Steve Weaver and the rest of the boys who are fantastic at what they do. And as you mentioned earlier, pitch IQ, he's got bags of that. We saw that against Stoke, for example. And I think he's a good dribbler. But as you said, he's very slender, very small. But he's not Wes Hoolahan, so I don't think he can get away with it. So I'll be interested to see if they go full, who was it, Leon Goretzka, where they go from twig to just a big, massive guy. That'll be quite interesting to see. Alf, Martin, is it loan for you?
It is a loan, but it's very specific in terms of of where he goes. Now, I listened to the podcast that Todd Cantwell did, and he spoke a lot because I definitely put them in the same bracket of.
Are you going to say Fortuna Sittard?
Well, not specific that club, but Todd highlighted the fact that he didn't feel like he was going to gain from going to a League One, League Two club and get battered around. He wanted to go to a team that played the way that he liked to play, and that's what Fortuna Sittard did. And I think that's really what he needs. Even if he goes abroad, I think he needs to embrace the quality he possesses as opposed to try and turn himself into some kind of physical player, because it works for Todd Cantwell, and I can't see why it wouldn't work for Josh Martin, because I think he is a type of player which is a luxury player in that essence, but I think he has the potential to be a fantastic player, no doubt.
Yeah, I'll deliver you boys a piece of information before we move on to the next player. And Stuart Webber said on our first video, he said he couldn't give Todd away for free to a League Two team. So where he acts like it's a choice that he didn't go to a League One team, I don't know how genuine that is. Obviously sounded nice on the podcast, but I'll let you decide as to who you believe there. I'm going to go with my man Webber. Alex Tetty. God, I think we have to do a whole podcast on Alex Tetty, to be honest with you. It is sad he's leaving, but it's the right time. That's a simple one, isn't it? Moritz Leitner, discard.
Who?
Can you quick sell Moritz Leitner? Is that a thing? Can we do that? No. Fair enough. I would quick sell Moritz Leitner for you FIFA fans out there. For the FM fans, I would stick him in the 23s and let him rot for even longer. Danel Sinani. What is was that too much? Sorry, no. Danel Sinani, right? And I asked this to Gorham after the pod. I was a bit like, what are they doing with Sinani? Because he was very surprised to go out on loan, as far as I'm aware, which I'm not surprised about either, in terms of this idea that there was a bit of fuss made about him, wasn't there? What? I'll just say to you, Bill, what on earth is the plan with Sinani? What are you doing with him?
Well, I was surprised during the summer when I found out that he was actually essentially an amateur player before Norwich, or not an amateur player, semi-pro. Sorry,
Semi-pro. Yeah.
So I think they were probably. It was a free transfer, wasn't it? It was one of those where if it pays off, it pays off probably in the mold of a Pookie. But I don't know. I haven't really seen too much of him. I think it was a bit of a low risk, high reward. I think that's the saying.
Yeah, that's what Norwich is built on.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe a domestic loan as opposed to another foreign one. But I don't know.
A domestic loan, absolutely. Alf, loan, keep, sell, discard.
I definitely think down the loan. I think he's someone you got to give a couple of years to kind of see the true progression. I honestly think as well he's also been pipped by Sebastian Soto as well.
Love that.
Because there has been a lot of chat about him. He absolutely lit up, on his loan spell and has progressed well for the national team. It was just obviously whether or not he could legally play. So I'm more interested to actually see how he progresses. Obviously, we're not going to talk about him because he's actually not on here for whatever reason. But
I'd probably do it now, mate. Loan. We'll all say loan about Soto.
Yeah, I'd like to see him get a loan. Championship level to see kind of how he progresses because you got to be. I know USA hasn't got the greatest football team, but you've got to be a certain level to be recruited. I'd like to think.
No, it means he's decent, especially at his age as well. Competition like Josie Altidore, world-class players like that. Maybe Clint Dempsey if they bring him out of retirement, who I think is still banned from football. Landon Donovan. Wow, that's a throwback. That's an icon from FIFA, isn't it? Why are you making me think of FIFA, Alf? Melvin City. I'm very confused about Melvin City. I think it's a loan. He's been bought for a reason. He, again, was a semi-professional footballer who got brought in. I think it's as simple as a loan because the loan he's been on, I don't believe he's played very much. Now, there'll be I don't know what it is, third, fourth loan report by Sam, which will be sort of a merge of May and April. So we'll get a bit more information on how he's done. But I don't think he's really played. So, boys, is it as simple as loan again?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think it's really just like it's players like him, players like Rocky Bashiri as well that they just kind of send out every year.
Bashiri.
Every year they send them out to Belgium and see what they can do. So it'll probably be the same, or like a League Two is in the French League Two. Just for players like that, you just kind of take the punt and hope that one day they just turn into a decent player. But the likelihood is they probably won't really progress into much.
Yeah, it's one of those now to reference Football Manager. I think we're on FM reference number 5 now, so that's a good tally to keep going. But he's one of those players where I keep sending him out on loan in hope that the club then pays a few million for him, and that's an easy little few million in the bank. Melvin City, yeah, we're going to say loan. I'm going to reserve judgment for him. Tom Tribal, sell, simple as that. I'd be interested to know if Blackburn are interested in signing him permanently. I know when he's played, it's been 50-50 at times. I've got a friend who supports Blackburn, and he said he's seen sort of flashes and glimpses of excellence, but also maybe he's seen firsthand some of the reasons why we didn't stick with him, beyond the fact that Norwich's team needed a bit of a refresh, didn't it? So I think what was it, loan or sell? It's got to be sell, isn't it, surely?
Sell just because of Anna Tribal.
Do you know what? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was thinking about what to say there. I'll leave everything alone. Yeah. I won't even sort of drag Bill into that hole now. Alfie started digging with his little diamond shovel there. Louis Thompson is a sell for me. I think it's as simple as that. And that's we spoke about this during the break, didn't we? During Bill's potty break, where we we spoke about this idea that we remember I think two performances, one for the wrong reason, one being that time he came on against Villa and injured himself in 9 seconds. That is so unfortunate. And then that game against Leeds, that infamous game where Carl Lafferty scored an equaliser and then Leeds went and won the game in the 95th minute,
Oh,
where he
don't.
looked very good. Yeah, we talked about Matt Jarvis earlier, didn't you? I think Alf, you brought Matt Jarvis up, and this idea of it's just one of those, isn't it? And it's really unfortunate. One, because of his age. Two, because we've seen he's quite good. I've spoken very quickly and a lot there. Are we saying sell, loan, just see out his contract?
I'd just say mutual termination at this point would be probably a beneficial thing for us.
Yeah. What about you, Bill?
Yeah, it is a shame. I think, yeah, you're probably right. He probably needs to go and sort of further his career elsewhere. I think there's an alternative reality or alternative universe where Louis Thompson
Oh
played a
wow.
really big role in the 2018-19 campaign, because he actually was quite not a prominent feature, but like he was on the bench a lot. He came on against Ipswich, I don't, if I'm not mistaken, and Farker really liked him, probably for his work rate and a little bit in that Harrison Reed mold. And I certainly think if he kept fit, he probably would have certainly had a sort of championship winners medal. But I think, yeah, it's a bit of a shame in that regard.
That's cracking from you. That's one for the old multiverse theorists, and I myself am one of those. So I'm now thinking of a world where Louis Thompson is a £40 million player. It's a tragedy, really, isn't it? I think it always is when a player's career is blighted by injury. Right, chaps, we've made it onto the strikers, and we're under an hour. What a bloody job we've done! Let's give ourselves a pat on the back. Incredible. We've got four very interesting case studies. We'll start with the easiest, and instead of sort of analysing him, we'll deliver our sort of commiserations to Timu Puki potentially missing out on the Euros. For all we know, he could still feature. I'm worried it's unlikely. From what I'm told, it's the plan is to just get him out there and see what happens. But Mr. Timu Puki, keep, surely.
Oh yeah,
Obviously,
yeah.
not
There's no.
surely. Obviously, yeah. Christ,
Yeah.
what a player! What a player he is. I said this to I can't remember. I said it once. I think he's the most intelligent player I've seen play for Norwich, or intelligent striker. I think Grant Holt will always be my favourite, but Timu Puki, without a doubt, his footballing brain, his pitch IQ, again to reference that, is second to none.
Well, you have to be some kind of player to be on the same wavelength as Emi Buendia, and I think that says it all, to be honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Bill, just tell us what you love about Puki.
Just everything.
Yeah,
Absolutely
do you know what? That's fair enough. I'm so fine with that. Right, we'll move on from the goat himself. Hopefully he keeps sort of himself nice and trimmed, because occasionally he rocks up with his beard a little bit too big. But I trust him to sort that out. Jordan Hugel, for me, again, it's simple. It's keep.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Do you know what? I was thinking of Adam Ida as I was talking about Jordan Hugel there. Keep Hugel, right? Christ, my brain got very confused there. I don't know what he would do in the Premier League, to be honest with you, but I'm not uncomfortable at him being a third choice striker. Bill, Mr. Hugel.
Yeah, I'd echo that. To be honest, I think that's probably an area where I would be sort of putting some serious investment in, just to take the pressure off Pookie's shoulders more than anything. I think you've got to sort of commend Hugo for his impact on the pitch at times, but also probably more importantly off the pitch as well. And I'm not sort of saying he's some sort of cheerleader within the Norwich City squad or anything. I think he's got a bigger role to play than that. But I think, yeah, his name just gets keep considering like the lack of football he's had. His name is mentioned so often. I find within sort of Norwich City media and for positive reasons, which I think is just you can only say as a compliment to him.
Yeah, cheerleader is. I would agree with that, but the cultural architect. Let's stick that one on the table again. Alf, Mister blowing all the bubbles. What are you saying about him?
Absolutely love the man. I think if I could be mates with anyone in the Norwich team, it would be him. I reckon he's one of those guys that just kind of glues the whole team together. He's been called what unsung hero. The kind of I don't know the exact term that Farker used, but he just said how kind of pivotal he's been. And I also think as well, not that when I say this, his sole responsibility is to score goals, but he did come up very big in some matches this season, and I think proved his worth. When Pookie was out, I can't remember who it was against now, but when he scored those two goals,
Bristol
and that
City.
fantastic. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely played his part and deserves a shot at
Was it not
being.
Rotherham?
He scored a 95th minute penalty against
Yeah,
Rotherham.
but he
Scored
scored
a
that
brace against Bristol City when
Oh
Pookie
yeah,
was injured.
at home,
yeah, 2-0
At
win.
home, yeah.
But no, I mean, I think he definitely deserves to be. I think being nice, it should be third choice, but I do think
Fair
that as
choice, yeah.
obviously, I think third choice is fair for him. He won't get much time, but he's a good lad to bring on when you may be holding the 1-goal lead on 90 minutes. He'll win every header and probably set up Lucas Rupp to take the ball down the pitch like I did against Birmingham.
Yeah, he's wanted the face put in him. You mentioned a team effort there. We spoke about Lucas Rupp earlier, didn't we? Towards the beginning of the season, he was important for that. And Hugel, again, in moments where he was needed, he would step up. For as much as he's not Timu Pukki, for as much as technically he's not the best around, he's a, dare I say, cheerleader. He's very good at what he does, and he also looks like he could beat me up. So I don't want to say sell him because I would fear for my life in that case. Actually, do you know, we'll go with Dermich. Actually, get rid. We'll quick sell him as well, shall we?
Pay him
700
whatever he
quid.
wants. Pay him the 50 grand he wants. Get him on the team bus.
Who was it who reported 50 grand a week? Man, that person needs to give their skull a wobble.
Was it Nick Mashiter?
Nick Mashiter, mate. The proof is in the pudding. No, I don't know him. I'm not going to say that. But yeah, 50k a week. I don't know if it's him who said it. I think it might have been by association. But 50k a week for Dermich. Let's behave, shall we? I think it's. I'm going to speak for us here. I'm going to go full fascist, and I'm going to say, quick sell, Josip Dermich. Right. Billy's other best friend. Bill, you've got two best friends. A bit promiscuous there. But Adam Eder. What are you doing with him? Are you letting him flourish in the Premier League as a fourth choice, or are you sending him out on loan? I'll quickly chuck my 2 pence in. I'm going to say he's got to go out on loan.
Yeah, I'd probably echo that. I think if he's on loan, if he's here again next season, he's probably his third season sort of as a backup option. I don't think that's probably the best for his development. I think if he could go to the Championship and score 15 goals, then I think he'd certainly be a player that could come back into hopefully a Premier League Norwich City side the following season. The thing that excites me about Eder is, in a weird way, the fact he plays for Ireland, because that's always a good exposure, even when football isn't as regular as it has come. Like, he's always got that to fall back on. He has the potential to be sort of Republic of Ireland's sort of number 9 for the next 10 years or something, doesn't he? And hopefully we see that. But like I say, to sort of guarantee that happening sort of as most likely as we can, I think a low move probably is best for him.
Yeah, as long as it's Championship for me. No Premier League teams are going to come in on loan from other. I don't know why I even thought that for a second, but it's got to be Championship because we've seen flashes, haven't we, of excellence. We saw, I think he scored 3 this season, and I think 2 of them have been very important. You've got Huddersfield away, his second of the game against Wickham, which was a quite important goal at the time, and a goal to get us a point against a very decent Barnsley team. So for me, it's not that it's anything sort of groundbreaking, but there's bags of potential. Mr. Adam Eder, Alf, is he your best friend as well?
Yeah, we're good mates outside of
Sweet.
of the this environment. But in terms of I think he needs a loan. I think, to be honest with you, he kind of reminds me of Josh Martin in terms of being unfortunate. Like the times where maybe he could have made a push for the team. He had the issue with COVID, and then I think he had maybe 2 issues with COVID in terms
Suspension,
of contract.
injury, yeah.
Yeah, the suspension was a tough one as well, because that was a little bit of the time. Like,
Hey, punched someone, mate. I've got nothing but respect for that.
And then, like I say, that ligament injury was really, really tough. But I think I saw that stat the other day where he scored the first and the last goal for us. So that in itself is, on a side note, very impressive. But I also just again, I can't believe we've gone this whole time and haven't talked about his Ireland teammate in Andrew Mbamidele. We haven't even mentioned him tonight.
Do you know what? We're blaming Canaries.co.uk for that. That's shocking from them. Not me, lads. That's totally all on them.
No, we're not. It's because we don't want Alfie to bring it up again.
Oh, we should have played. Oh, that's shocking for me. I should have played it off like that.
Go and check out the video. Link down below.
Oh, Alf, everyone's gone by this point, mate. No one cares about you, pal. Don't mean to upset you there, but that's the way it goes.
Thanks,
but yeah,
man.
Mbamidele, for me, it's a very interesting player. I can't believe I forgot about him. I'm also kind of weirded out that he's not on the website. So whoever does canaries.co.uk, sort it out, mate. For me, it's as simple as keep. I was on the side of the fence that would suggest a loan. In conclusion, by the way, I think we're all saying loan for Eder, aren't we?
Yeah.
Loan
Okay.
for Reader.
Cool, excellent. With Omobamidele, someone in the comments, I can't remember, pointed this out, and it was he's going to want to be in the Premier League, and I'm so fine with that because he is a very gifted footballer, and I'd be so happy to see, mixed with the fact that he's only 18, isn't he? I think he's 19 this year, so it's not like his career is going to stagnate if he plays a bit part in a Premier League season. So for me, it's absolutely a keep. Now, Bill, I can only apologise, but we'll let Alf talk about his little buddy. Go on.
Thank you. So
Right, that's enough.
no,
So, Bill, what are you saying about? No, sorry. Go on, Alf. Go on, Alf.
you know what? I think keep him as number one backup option is what I'd have to say. I don't.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think he has the potential to be unbelievable.
He's had a
I
couple of
think,
wobbles, hasn't he?
yeah, but you know what? It was really interesting hearing Ben Gibson on comms for that last game because obviously he had that. You know, was it a foul? Was it a mistake? I think it
It was
was.
a foul, yeah.
Regardless, though, it was a lack of maturity in the way that he stopped, and I think little things like that, you know, shows that obviously there's and again from speaking to him, he is such a driven character, and he gets
Wait, did you speak to him? When did you speak to him?
Mate, that was so smooth. Nice.
he gets
Link in
he
description.
gets. I just think he understands the philosophy of the club, and he's not a big ego, and he wants to learn and wants to progress. And I think when you got a player like that, you've just got to keep them around.
Yeah, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but he's the first real sort of product of this Steve Weaver setup, in terms of sort of the Wevolution, we have to keep calling it, don't we? He's the first player to be like bred purely from that. There was no transition for him. He was brought in by them, and we've seen sort of the fruits of that idea, haven't we? He's a very intelligent player, and as you mentioned there, I did want to bring this up. The not Bristol City, the Barnsley goal, where it was that lack of experience, where, and I'm going to stick it on the table, the old footballing cliche, you've got to play to the whistle. Either that or you go down and make it convincing. But it's a lesson learned for him, and I'm very excited to see how his Norwich City career unfolds. Now, chaps, before, let me put my light back on, before I disappear into the darkness, into the abyss, is there anyone that we've missed? Because now I'm nervous because of Omobamidele. Have we missed anyone? I hope not, because we're under an hour.
I think we're safe.
We're safe. Right, cool. Chaps, it's been a pleasure. And I look forward to laughing at this video next year when I say laughing, you know, smugly, because we're all bloody geniuses and we're going to have smashed this transfer. This keeps sell.
Bear in mind that last year me and Bill both said sell to Tim Krul and Timu Puki. Can we just keep that in mind?
You need a slap for saying to sell Tim Krul, son. That is, I honestly,
I think Ajax were going to bid 5 mil at a time. We were like, yeah, let's get him off the back.
My sell was on the condition that we invested that money in Angus Gunn, I might just add.
That is like concerning, boys. I don't know if we're getting you two on again. Bloody Nora. I genuinely completely forgotten about that, but fair enough. We all get some wrong. I've had many things wrong this season. That's just me as a person. I'm just a bit of a wally sometimes. But yeah, that is everything for this video. If you've enjoyed the review, maybe stick a thumbs up on the video. You know, I'd appreciate that. If you enjoy these videos, maybe consider subscribing. I'm very much looking forward to becoming a Premier League fan channel again. That should be quite exciting until we start losing on the regular. Bill, I do hope we get to see you again at some point. That makes it sound like you're off to war. You're not. You've just got responsibilities. You're an adult now, whereas Alf sort of impersonates one. I'm not, so yeah, it's going to be interesting, to say the least. But chaps, it's been an absolute pleasure, and until next time, I'll see you all again very, very soon.